Ah yes, Taos, a land of skis and beautiful hills all over the state of New Mexico. But here's the thing. I have a question for you. Don't you normally associate SUVs and names like, oh, I don't know, Santa Fe and over in Arizona, the Tucson? Well, Volkswagen did something very clever, is they took their compact member of their Atlas family, which is their SUV family, in my view anyway, and they stole the name right out from under Hyundai. And here we have the Taos. And Taos is an amazing accomplishment in so many different ways because they were kind of a late player, a late comer into the compact SUV category, which was already saturated with your RAV4s and your CRVs and your, Escapes, whatever. Go on. You go ahead on. They've been in there for a while. But here comes Volkswagen's version, and it has been incredibly successful. And for 2025, they've spruced it up a bit, done some styling stuff, but more importantly, done some little tweaks to the drivetrain that are very, very significant. But more than anything else, it is a really, really practical, enjoyable to drive Volkswagen that takes on all comers, and this is the fun part for me, at a reasonable price. So here you go, folks. Amongst all these beautiful spring flowers, let us pretend we are in New Mexico, and we shall explore this place known as Taos. Our 2025 Volkswagen Taos. You know, this is a 4Motion version, by the way, which is the all-wheel drive version. You also have a front-wheel drive version available to you. One of the first things I noticed about this is the color, the hue, if you will. Believe it or not, this car has been through like some really nasty rain, thunderstorm type weather, down some dirt roads, and is covered with pollen because it's that time of year. And yet look at how good the paint looks. It looks like it's almost clean unless I get real close to it, and you can see it. I haven't washed it, but this is called Monument Gray. Really, really interesting color. It's kind of like a light blue. But anyway, I wanted to mention that because I love a car that when it's dirty doesn't look dirty. It looks clean. And now the sun comes out to illustrate my point. Anyway, here we have our 2025 Taos 4Motion, and it's the SEL version, which I'm not sure how many trim versions there are. There's not a lot. They don't have like 16 different trim versions, but this is a very, very nicely outfitted because it has everything you need and no excessive stuff. It has a few areas that might surprise you that it doesn't have stuff on it. One area in particular, which I'll show you very shortly. But the tweaks for 2025 are very interesting. The all-wheel drive version, the 4Motion version that you see before you, actually has a different transmission than the previous version. It now has an 8-speed automatic, and the engine's been tweaked a little bit, so it now puts out 174 horsepower. Little changes, but they make a big difference. This thing's got a tiny 1.5 liter inline 4 in it. Tiny, little thing. And yet, it seems to have plenty of power. You wouldn't want to tow anything with it, I don't think. And I didn't see any kind of tow rating for it. But for general driving, it's very peppy. It gets around really nicely. And of course, the return of that small engine is a very, very high fuel economy number. So far, I've been getting in the 26, 27. That's not super high, obviously. But I think if you keep your foot out on it and are on the highway, you could probably get up to, what does it say here? It says, I'm looking, hang on, the wind's not cooperating there. 28 miles per gallon combined. Now that's a few miles per gallon better than a lot of the competition. And I believe it too, because so far when driving it, it seems to be very frugal with the use of fuel. Now what's our wheelbase? Our wheelbase is 105.5 inches. Our curb weight is about 3440, which is fairly light, especially when you consider it has quite a bit of room in it. What they've done at Volkswagen from the design standpoint is I think they opted to go for more in terms of rear seat room than pure cargo room. Although you still have plenty of cargo room, I assure you. I had a whole bunch of stuff in there yesterday. I had all my scuba gear in there, and a tank and all kinds. There's plenty of room in there for your occupants. If you need more cargo area, then you may want to look at the other guys. But if you use your rear seat a lot for, oh, I don't know, like people, dogs, children, things like that, it's very attractive. You'll see. It's not massively roomy back there, but it does a good job. But there is what you're looking at now is your new front fascia. They did a little tweaking with the front end here to make it look a little different, and it looks very unique. It's definitely, I think it looks very in keeping with the Atlas family of SUVs from Volkswagen. I love that family resemblance stuff. Some companies do it better than others. Hyundai does it really, really well. You can always tell a Hyundai. You can always tell a Mazda. You can always tell a Toyota for the most part. Fords, I don't know. I think so, but they're all these manufacturers I've just mentioned, everybody is starting to get into the point where they're all starting to look like each other, and that's been the way it was for quite some time, and that's because the wind tunnel all says the same stuff to people. But these days, I am convinced that we're not looking at much at the wind tunnel as we are as just general styling cues that everybody's using. So anyway, as you can see, very carefully if you look, the rear door area and the rear passenger area is very, very, it's a prominent part of the architecture of the car. In other words, the cargo area looks comparatively small compared to where the door is in the back seat. And this is in keeping with what I was saying earlier about they're kind of biasing it towards rear seat room as opposed to pure cargo area. But man, I love that color. It looks so, like I said, this car is much dirtier than it looks right now, and that's pleasing to lazy people like me who don't wash the car as often as they should. But anyway, I've mentioned the fact that we have some tweakage in the engine room, so let's go there now and see exactly what this thing has for us. Oh, I tell you what, friends, we got lucky again. Every once in a while, I'm very fortunate in that I get a vehicle before most people get it in terms of the press fleet is concerned, and so it's beautifully clean underneath. And it looks new because it is. And this is a great expression of what's going on with Volkswagen in terms of how they're dressing their engine compartments these days. Because I've noticed, I don't know if you remember, if you go back on some of my Volkswagen videos, you'll notice that the engine cover starts to disappear. And I thought, you know, somebody was probably taking it off and wearing it as a hat. But what they've done is they've kind of engineered it away, and now they've dressed the engine such that they don't really need that engine cover anymore. It looks very, you know, everything's kind of cleaned up and looks great. So here we have our tiny 1.5 liter inline four cylinder. Here's your 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your cylinders right there. And what do we have in front? We have our intake system, which is naturally this composite, which everybody's doing this now. All these composite runners that go into the engine. And what's in the back? Turbocharging. Of course it's turbocharged. You couldn't get no power out of that little 1.5 liter if you didn't turbocharge it. So everything is, as you can see, one of the advantages to a smaller engine is you have a little bit more room around it to work if you need to do so. And as you can see on this one, our air box is right here. Goes in here, feeds into this thing here, and this thing feeds into this thing, and then there's air coming this way, and then there's air going into the turbocharging system, which just goes underneath the engine, I think. I think it comes around this way. and goes through the intercooler system, which cools it down after once it's compressed, it's heated up, plus it's in the proximity of the exhaust. It doesn't actually, someone was telling me the other day how a turbocharger works, and they got it wrong in terms of, they thought that the exhaust was actually going into the impeller that's spinning and turbocharging the engine, and then some of that engine is, gas is actually, compressed gas is coming into the intake system is actually exhaust gas. It's not, it's fresh air. But the impeller is what turns the turbocharger, but you have a turbine that is being spun by the exhaust. That's all right back here next to the firewall. And then it comes around, like I said, goes through the intercooler, comes up, and goes into our wonderfully elaborate intake system. Now, this is a TSI Volkswagen engine, and one of the most interesting things about these engines is they have a fuel injection system. It's a little different from everybody else. As you know, if you've been keeping up, and I don't blame you if you haven't, we started out with gasoline direct injection a few years ago, but there's some drawbacks to it. There's advantages and drawbacks to it. But one of the big drawbacks was the fact that it tends to promote carbon buildup in the intakes of the engine over time. And so once you hit 90,000, 100,000 miles, something like that, a lot of times it won't run as well, and they need to be cleaned out. You know, it's a bit of a hassle. So what a lot of manufacturers have been doing, and there's more than one advantage to doing this, but it has both kinds of fuel injection. It has a port fuel injection and a gasoline direct fuel injection, which means, yes, you have 2 injectors per cylinder, which is more complex. But the advantage to that is, depending on the driving situations, the RPMs, and everything else, you can use one system or the other to benefit everything: power delivery, smoothness, fuel economy, and cleaning out those intake runners. So Volkswagen has a system that's their own, and it's called stratified charge something or other. I don't remember, but TSI is how we refer to it in the trade and on television in the commercials. But the TSI system is unique to Volkswagen, and it seems to work really well. This engine, despite having really tiny displacement, is very, very smooth, and I haven't yet detected, I'm going to back up here and get my paperwork. I have not detected any real lulls in power here and there. It doesn't seem like there's any kind of a lag with the turbocharging. It seems to get going pretty quick. I mean, you can feel it to a small extent, but it's just nothing like small displacement gas engines that were turbocharged used to be. They used to be horrific. Well, they weren't horrific, but they weren't that great. But anyway, you're looking at, for 2025, 174 horsepower at 5,500 RPMs as a peak, and your torques, your pounds of feet, are 184 foot-pounds at 1,750 RPM. Think about that. Very, very low RPM for a torque peak. Brilliant. It's almost as good as having like a hybrid system where you'd have an electric motor at that low end to power you out. But and all this is tied into a 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, being this transverse mounted, since we're learning these things together, children, well, I knew them for a long time actually, but whenever you see a transverse mounted 4-cylinder engine, that almost instantly tells you this is primarily initially designed to be a front-wheel drive vehicle. And when you have all-wheel drive like Volkswagen's 4Motion, that is an extra system that's running off this engine, drive shaft, to a rear differential, turning the rear wheels as well. Or if it's a hybrid, a lot of times it's just a supplemental electric motor that's back there. But this is why you can have yours either way. If you live down in the south, there's no snow, and you don't leave the pavement a hell of a lot, front-wheel drive will get you around just fine. But up here in the Northeast, we go with all-wheel drive wherever we can because we still need it. I estimate maybe 2 or 3 years and we'll have no more snow. The way it's been going, I'll tell you, it's been 3 years since we've had to have our driveway plowed, and that's crazy because we used to have it plowed 2 or 3 times every year, and that's not happening anymore. So Yep, things are changing. As if any of you weren't keeping up, yes, the climate is changing rapidly, and it's scaring the hell out of a lot of scientists who used every supercomputer they had to predict what's going to happen, and they haven't been right. So it's happening much faster than anticipated. Which is kind of like this car, because it's much faster than you might think with a little 1.5 liter engine. But it's very quick. Overall, I'd call it a very, very good size engine. It combines all the things you'd like, especially in a family utility vehicle, general transport vehicle, because it gets good mileage, has good pickup, is extremely fun to drive if you're into a nice, smooth, small powertrain that can, when you need to give it the welly, when you need to give it the beans, as Sarah would say, you can. And it's not a rocket, no, by any stretch, but it's a nice, quick car. And I am very impressed with this engine, and I think the little bit of tweaking they did for 2025 has borne great fruit. Look at all the lovely flowers. Here we have our wheels, and our wheels surprised me. I have to admit, I was surprised. These are 19-inch wheels, which I was assuming this car would have 17s. I don't know why, but it does. It has 19s. I assure you, and I will assure you further, because these are Goodyear Assurance tires. The particular name for these is the Assurance Finesse, huh? Cool, huh? Well, whatever. But what we have is our tire size is your 2, 35, 45, or 19 tires. And these are your all-season tires, your multi-meteorological tires that will should get you around fine in the snow, I think, for a while. Not the longest lasting tires in terms of tread wear, but they're very good tires, and they also deliver what I consider to be a very nice ride as well. And you could see, look at the size of the brakes on this thing. This thing, what did I tell you it weighed? 3,600, I think, something like that. Well, it has big brakes on it, and they feel very, very smooth and very tractable and very easy to modulate, so it works well. Something else that's interesting about this, the adaptive cruise control on this car seems to be programmed a lot better than a lot of other cars I've driven. It seems to be looking further down the road and slows the vehicle down a little more gradually. If you're like on a little highway and you come up and there's one of these stoplights that's just kind of in the middle of nowhere, and you're going along at a highway speed, and all of a sudden, uh-oh, we got to slow down. The car seems to see it maybe a hair earlier than a lot of other cars do. And when you have on your adaptive cruise control, and slows the car down a little more gradually. I shouldn't say much more gradually, but a little more gradually, which is good. As you can see, we're dying to find out about this cargo area. Is it huge? Is it small? Is it true what I said, that they bias things towards the rear seat room? Well, first of all, here's something this car does not have, which is very surprising considering everything else on it. It does not have a power lift gate in the back. It's manual, and you know what? I'm fine with that. It lowers complexity dramatically. It works just fine. I mean, it's not like it's made out of iron and you can barely lift it up and you need that power assist. You don't. It's fine. But as you can tell right off the bat, the cargo area here is much smaller than, say, on a RAV4. I just compared it to a 2019 RAV4, and it's in this particular configuration with the seats upright, it's much smaller than compared to a lot of the others. It folds, the seat backs fold down like this. You just do that. Actually, it's better if you do it there, because I got arthritis in that hand at the moment. But these are 60/40 separated, plus you have kind of a ski-through thingy right here. We'll examine that further when we do the full interior look. But you got you got a tall but not very deep cargo area with the seats deployed. What's underneath here? Yes, a nice temporary spare tire. Lots of room for your doodads, for your booster. If you have one of those lithium-ion booster things to give friends a jump during the winter time when their battery crashes. You know, you can put that down there. Overall workmanship is, I wouldn't say it's cheap, but I wouldn't say it's impressive. It's pretty much what you get on a kind of an economy car feel to it, but it's not bad, and it looks sufficiently durable to make you happy. We have a place up here, it looks like, for a partial shielding device, but there is no partial shielding device on this one, but I bet you can get one. I bet it's an option. If you want it, you can get it. But as you can see, we've definitely compromised our cargo area just a little bit so that that rear seat has more room in it. This is a compact vehicle after all. I mean, we've really started to stretch the lines on what is a mid-size, what is a compact. Things are getting bigger all the time. This one is a real good size because it's really much smaller than a lot of the compacts out there. At least it sure feels that way to me. And I don't mean it's cramped, it's anything but. It has that almost like the Atlas-like quality of width, in that the car feels very roomy when you're in it, especially from side to side, coupling distance, that kind of thing. So anyway, here we have a beautiful little car that actually can do an awful lot for you in terms of overall utility for your family, putting things in there, hauling items if necessary, but best, I think it excels best at hauling people and taking up little space and burning very little fuel. So, with that said, let's take a look at that interior and find out why I'm making such a big deal about the rear seat and the ratio between rear seat and rear cargo area. Let's do that. I will attempt to orient this camera in such a way that I can get rid of that flicker, but you know, I can't find out. I've only been using this camera for a couple of years or something. And for some reason, I'm not able to access what I'm looking for in terms of adjusting the sync rate. But that's okay. We'll soldier through. One thing this does not show you is the amount of pollen everywhere. Well, look here, look here. Look at all this here. It's all pollen. It's just crazy, man. If you're a bee, you're happy. If you're one of these animals that, here we go, let's see if I can get rid of that. Well, anyway, here's our key instrument cluster display, and this is a beautiful one. You have a few options as far as what you can look at. This is by far my favorite. It's more of a traditional. This is, of course, flat screen technology. And what you are observing is, in fact, a simulated analog mechanical type of instrumentation on the left and right with here's our tachometer. Woo-ha, woo-ha. And on the right side, of course, we have our speedometer. And in the middle is our trip computer. Now, we have a button here. Where is it? Where is it? There it is right there. It says View. So if we press this, there's a different one for you. Your speedometer is actually in the lower right. And you have a bunch of different things you can pick here. You can put fuel economy in there. You can put what's overview? Oh, I don't know what oh, look at that. You can drive along and have all that. It'll tell you things like the average fuel economy. The average speed is 33 miles an hour. Wow. That seems like more of an urban situation. Interesting stuff. But we can also go to economy. We can go to trip. We go oil temperature. What's our oil temperature? Let's have a look. There is no oil temperature. There is no oil. Well, there must be oil. Well, it hasn't warmed up, obviously. Road signs. Oh, yeah. The nearest road sign we have says the speedometer is 35 miles an hour. Speedometer. Speed limit. And that is exactly right, as a matter of fact. That is the closest one to us. Our speed is 0. Our range, 215 miles. And I've already put almost 200 miles on it, so the range is excellent. And I think I mentioned at some point in this video, it doesn't have a very large fuel tank, but it gets good fuel economy, so your range is quite good. There we go, oil temperature, road sign, speed, range. And anyway, we can go to a different view which is this one here, is my favorite. And then there's this one. And those are your two choices, basically, in terms of your overall cluster display. Oh, that flicker's annoying, isn't it? There, it looks like it's not flickering now, but but very, very legible. I really like this instrumentation. Volkswagen's done a nice job with this stuff. Now with this, we can look at some of our central computer options. This is if you have your adaptive cruise control or your, what are they called, by the way? Let's see, they must have a name. Advanced electronic rear view park dynamics, light assist, ICL driver features, travel assist. That's what they call it. When you have travel assist on, you also have steering input that will help you. Lane assist is turned off. Speed warning is turned off. Speed, ACC, or cruise control. ACC is, of course, adaptive cruise control. But if you don't like adaptive cruise control, it's real nice on this car. You can just switch if you so desire. How do you do that, though? How do you switch? Let's go back. Let's go back. Oh, sorry. Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. All right, here we go. And if we want to go up and down here, what if you want to go? There you go. And you hit that, cruise control system is selected. There you go. But if you want to go up here, adaptive cruise control. So you can put your own default in there. As far as I know, it doesn't revert to anything later. If we continue to go down here, we have our blind spot monitor, which of course is activated. Rear traffic alert. You really need those nowadays if you ever find yourself in a parking lot. Front assist. This is back to go to the original. And what do we like to have in here? Let's see. So anyway, that's that, and that's that. Vehicle status. This will scan everything and tell you what's going on. And that tells me which phone is on there, and this tells me what the radio station is selected as. And look at this. You have navigation, and the navigation, which is flickering to kill. Look at how slow that frame rate is. Wow, terrible. Oh, I hate that. But you go over here, and you see we have a slightly different map put up here, a wider, as far as what we're looking at is set to far wider on our main navigation screen, but this one is much tighter, and we're going to make it go away because that flickering is, that flickering is the work of the devil, pretty much. And what I'd like to do here, God, I can't believe how bad, can you believe how bad that is? You can adjust it. You can adjust the distance you're looking at it, the range of your navigation in the cluster as well. There we go. Okay, that's where we want to be, and that's where we want to be. And I like having long-term mileage. Let's see what we can put on. Let's go to the trip economy. Trip. There we go. There's our trip. That's the thing I depend on more than anything else. So anyway, that's your main instrument cluster, and it's got a good degree of adjustability for you, and it's very legible. Now, what about all the rest of the controls on this thing? Well, as is common practice with basically all the manufacturers these days, you have a whole lot of stuff on your steering wheel. In this particular case, some people put it on the right, some people put it on the left, but your cruise control array is on the left side of this Taos. And you have, this is your distance. You adjust your following distance when you're in adaptive cruise control mode. There's two cruise control buttons. This one turns the whole system on and off, and this one turns on whether or not you have the travel assist or not travel assist, meaning it will trace the lane, center the car in the lane, that kind of thing, if you're into that. I find that on this car, it's about average in its ability to do that. You're fine as long as you're on a nice straight interstate, but if you throw some curves in there, it can get a little confused. Actually, a lot confused. And depending on the situation, it can get a lot confused. This is your volume. Now, here's all your stuff is cruise control, but this is actually a radio orientation right here to turn your volume up and down. And this on the right side is to adjust your preset values on your radio. So if you set in your stations in there, you can go back and forth fairly quickly. Here's our heated steering, and here is all the navigating I was doing on that screen and the different view selection right there, which I showed you earlier. So that's a lot of stuff we got on this steering wheel. Not unusual this day at all to have it that way. What else do we have? Well, we have a huge turn signal thingy here, which also has our whether or not we have, God, that's bizarre, isn't it? Whether or not we have our high beams, low beams, or the automatic system, I believe, is also located on this. So it will dim the lights for you if you're driving into headlights. It will automatically dim them for you. That's something else you can turn off, not use if you don't want to. You have that option. And on the right side is, of course, your array that controls your windshield wipers. And boy, it's fairly complex, but it works. It gives you a lot of options, including the rear. Like right now, I'm cleaning my rear. Can you see that? My rear's being cleaned. There we are. Again, Volkswagen does things a little bit different from some people, but it's very, very intuitive for the most part. And you get used to it very quickly and you can get around. Now, we're now moving into an area where there's great pluses and minuses. One of my favorite things about how they've done the dashboard on this vehicle is they have lowered the screen to a real good height. It's completely out of your way here. Because, we got some things that are up like this tall and stuff like that. And if you're a shorter driver, or you have the seat further down, because I can go up and down, so I'm going up, I'm going down. You can actually, the screen can obscure your vision a little bit. It's difficult to have it, the circumstances arise that you're low enough and the way you're looking through the windshield is to the point where that big screen can actually obscure your vision slightly. It's starting to disappear on cars, I've noticed. They're doing a lot more intelligent placement, and in my opinion, a lot more intelligent sizing. This is a real good size for this screen, for this interior. You see, everything you need to do, as you can see, you have a beautiful HD display of your navigation stuff, and naturally you have all your various, it's sensitive to your hand, by the way. I didn't touch nothing. Watch. Woo! See? It's the magic wand thing that Volkswagen's so fond of. I'm not wild about it, but again, you get used to it. It's not a big deal. But you have all your various menus here to go in. Where's our main menu? Where's our total menu? Right here. And there you have all your selections of all the different things you can do with this car as far as fine-tuning various aspects of the car to your personal preferences. It's a good system, and it works fine. I mean, there's definitely worse out there, and there's a few better, but overall I think Volkswagen's done a nice job because it's very easy to get used to and to understand and to be able to navigate. We drop down. Now this is a bit confusing for me because we don't have any hard controls anywhere for the climate control system. We also don't have, what we do have is surprising to me, is we do have some radio knobs here. You can adjust the channel and you can adjust your volume with a conventional knob, which is always nice to have. But you go down here to your climate control and there is no real buttons. I mean, you got your slides here. Your automatic setting, heat seating, and heat cooling. Again, very nicely equipped for the price, this thing. Honestly, and there's your rear windshield defroster. And where's your front windshield? Where's your major? I don't see that. Well, you have a menu down here, and you pop that up, and then it'll tell you various things you can do right there. You can sync your sides. You have a two-zone system here for the driver and for the passenger, which you can fine-tune to whoever's there. If they want to do their own thing in terms of ventilation, they get to. That's always a welcome thing for people, for your passengers, to let them know that they care. But anyway, we go back down, and there's our front defroster maximum. Almost everything has a default position, not a default, but a dedicated position for your defrosters, because defrosters are very, very important. And whether or not the AC is on when your defroster's on, I believe it's pretty much standard fare. It'll kick on depending on what the humidity is and everything else, pretty much by itself. So we drop down, and what do we have? Here is your QI charger, which, by the way, does not work if you have your camera. That's what my phone basically is. It's basically a camera. If you have your telephone, your smartphone in a case, it will not charge. At least if you have a Apple near field communication charging QI capability, it won't work on this car. There's nothing you can do about it. You got to take it out of the case if you want to do that. And if you have any Apple phones, you take it out of a case. You don't have a case with it. I don't know how you people keep from dropping that phone all the time, because it's such a smooth and easily dropped design. I've never understood that. You got a couple of your USB-C ports down there, plus a 12-volt port. And then we back up, and here we have a fairly conventional shifter, which is nice to see. And you don't have paddle shifters, but you do have manual shifting. If you go all the way back, like so, then there's your manual shift, up and down, right there. Super simple, super straightforward, very easy to use. A very nice conventional shifter. I'm very pleased with it. I've had zero trouble with it. It's excellent. Here we have our mode selector for our driving systems, and we have quite a few actually. Now the mode button, if I press it, it'll do it'll do this, and then you can go left and right. Excuse me. You press the button again, and that's how you go to various. You have your eco, your normal, your sport, and then your custom, which you can adjust. And see the steering, drivetrain, adaptive cruise control. Ooh, what can we do with that? Normal, comfort, sport, eco. Huh, isn't that interesting? I don't know, I'll have to play with that and see what each does. That's fascinating, actually. Light assist and climate control, all this stuff is part of your personal adjustment that you can set with your custom mode right there. We will leave it on normal because we're norms here. We're normies. But you also, that's just part of it now. That's your road going. Here we have this setting, which is the driving mode off-road automatic. And then we have here driving mode custom. And what does that let us do? I'm going to just look at all these things. Hill descent control, hill start assist, all-wheel drive, off-road setting, or normal setting. Look at all these adjustments. Isn't this something? Steering, normal or sport, drivetrain, off-road or normal. I mean, you can customize everything, even your adaptive cruise control. Same thing we saw before. Isn't that something? I think that's remarkable. So you have all those settings, and then I'll go all the way back to here, because here's our snow mode. So if you like modes, this is the car for you if you're into modes, because for the money, for the fact that this is a compact sport utility, it has a lot of modes if you're into modes. What else do we have down in our shifting area? Well, we have our engine auto start on and off. This one's fine. It doesn't seem overly... It's real interesting how different manufacturers do different things. Now, as I've always mentioned, if you have a hybrid, usually there is no starter motor. It actually spins off of the hybrid motor. For the front wheels. There's some kind of a link with that, or there is a dedicated motor that like runs the transmission, and it also runs this. So those things instantly just shoot up and start up. It's super fast. But this vehicle, I'm assuming, has just a regular conventional starter, but it seems to start very quickly with little fanfare, and it's pretty smooth. And this can make a big deal. If you're one of these people, honest to God, you live in a place where you hit that light when you're on your commute to work every morning, and you have to sit there for a ridiculous... That's why you always try to make that light, because you hate that light. And you have to sit there. Or you have a train crossing. I have a good friend who lives in a place where he really likes to not spend a whole lot of time leaving early or late for work. There's an appropriate time to go, but when he does that, he always hits a train that's well, he doesn't hit the train, but the train always crosses the tracks, and he has to sit in that line for about 5 minutes. So in his case, he loves the fact that his engine will just shut off, and he can sit there and listen to the radio or do whatever. He pulls his phone out and catches up on email or something. But engine auto start stop is good. There's all kinds of videos you'll see out there about people talking if it actually damages the engine. I don't think the jury's out on that at all. I think for the most part it doesn't hurt a thing. The engine just, with the modern lubricants, the tolerances and everything else in the modern engine, and provided you put good oil in your car, there's plenty of a film of oil that the parts are sitting on while they're not moving, and the moment it starts up, there's the only time you get wear, really, when you are in a situation where the car has been sitting for a long time, especially in cold weather. The maximum amount of wear that will take place in your engine is often when you start that engine in the cold weather, because it does take microseconds or a few seconds for the lubricating surfaces to become completely up to snuff in terms of the oil supply and the oil viscosity. So that's the only time you got to really, and there's nothing you can do about that, incidentally, unless you want to put an engine heater on it. But anyway, I digress. I'm always digressing. I apologize. Here's our cup holders. They're beautiful. And here is our little, I hesitate to call it a console. It's more like a box of things. So here's your box of things. We go over to the right, and we have a very, very commodious glove box. What car was I just in that didn't have a glove box at all? Gosh, I'll have to think about that. It was a car I just had. Well, anyway. So let's go back here and put that there. And our seats are beautiful. This is, of all places, Vienna leather. And you have some very good side bolsters. And as you can see with all the perforations, that's largely for your ventilation when you turn on the vent, which I'll do right now. I'll turn it all the way on. Full blast. You hear that? This is really nice. If you live in a hot climate, oh man, that's a godsend right there. Cold climate, there's your heat. But very, very comfortable seating overall, and I think it will accommodate a large array of human being types pretty comfortably. And you have a decent amount of adjustment. Of course, the adjustments on the driver's side are electric, and they're manual on the passenger side, because who the hell cares about them? So you have that to deal with if you're a passenger. We have a very nice panoramic roof here. Can we open this up here? What is that doing? That's not doing anything. Because that's the shade. Oh. And here we're closing. The shade takes approximately 6 months. And it's not completely opaque, as you can see. Yep. But there you go. You can do that. And what else do we have here? We have a moonroof that opens. Check it out. Say hello. And it opens quite a bit. I mean, it's nice and roomy, and you got the semi-translucent air deflector, and then you have all that pollen out there. So put that back there. Nice, really nice, especially again at the price point, which is about $36,000. This car is a bargain. I mean, I'm in this day and age, I kid you not, it is a bargain. So we've pretty much covered the front of the car. Your lighting system is, of course, automatic, and then you can manually select the other modes if you want the headlights on, you want the parking lights on. Yep, that's there. Pretty much standard fare for these days. And with that, let's go look. I've been talking about this earlier, and now it's the big moment. Oh my God, it's him. It's him. It's him. He's been waiting for me. Look at the size of the door here. It's very generous and almost 90 degrees. But here's the thing. They've compromised the cargo area a bit, and in return, what do you get? You get this. You got, well, first of all, I need to do this here. I'm going to open this all the way, our panorama, get us some more light in here. Look at there. But look at the room you have here. It's great. You actually, it feels like, I don't think this is true at all, but it feels like you're almost sitting a little bit lower in the back seat than the front seat. Hard to say, but it's very, look at all this leg room you got. There's plenty of leg. Look there, you can cross your legs like this. Well, I'll tell you, if you put the combine on top of that thing, it's going to blow up. You can do that if you want. You have a huge drive shaft tunnel, but that's all right because you got your all-wheel drive, and you got to have that tunnel to put them drive shafts down there, and your exhaust and all kinds of wiring, and they do all kinds of things with your drive shaft tunnel. A lot of times, it's not a drive shaft tunnel, but that's what it does. You have that beautiful perforated Vienna leather back here. You also have windows that go almost 100% down. I'd say that's 93%. It's very nice. You have excellent map lights, which are on the sides here because you have your panorama, you see. And I think this is a wonderful, wonderful rear seat. If you're regularly going to be carrying a passenger back here, kids or adults, either one, two adults can be very, very comfortable back here. And you got your adjustable. They even mentioned this on the Monroney, your adjustable air conditioning vents. Now, there's only one USB-C port that I see. I don't know what this is. It's just a thing. And then that's where you put your Mentos. That's where you put them in there. I don't know why there's only one there, because that's going to cause a fight among the children. They're trying to charge their portable electronic device. So you have been warned. Let's have a look at the all-important armrest height. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very nice. And is there a bit of anything here? Can we slide forward or back? No, we can't. Can we recline? I don't think you can. There may be a way to, wait a minute, hang on. We're searching, we're learning together. I don't think there is. I don't think it will recline. So you'll have to, if that's the case, which it appears to be, you will have to live with the rake that you got. And it seems fine. But it's always nice to have a little bit of adjustment. There may be, it's entirely possible that there's a way to do it. I'll work with it some more. And if I discover how they do that, I will let you know. But anyway, that's pretty much it. They have compromised cargo area for back seat space, but the back seat space is very good, very, very good. So you pay your money and you take your choice. And in this case, like I said, it's a very reasonably priced vehicle and a very, very nicely designed interior. Not too much frippery, and a whole lot of excellent build quality as far as I can tell, because there's been no rattles or anything like that. Although this is a very new car, as I mentioned before. It's just rolled out of the showroom, and it's a beauty. So then there were bumps and curves and challenges galore. Whee! Boy, I tell you, this thing has a lot of suspension noise. I have to comment on that because it's unusual. But you can really hear some of it's tire noise. There's some tire noise. But when you go over the bumpies, you can really hear that what I call nondescript suspension noise. It's not like it's a specific thing. It is just something, it's a brum kind of thing. Can you hear that? Can you hear that? Can you hear that? Yeah, boom, see? It does make a fair amount of suspension noise. More than any cars I've had lately. But not, it's not like totally unusual to have suspension noise. It certainly isn't, but this seems to be a little bit more pronounced than what you normally get. But it doesn't, I mean, it's just an auditory thing. The suspension still gobbles up bumps very nicely. And handling is good. We're going to have a little handling test here. Here's my favorite right here, this part right here. It's when you accelerate out of it. Whee! Very good. It sticks to the road very nicely. And then you have that all-wheel drive system, the 4Motion. And it is used for motion. And it will motion you right around corners very well, as in addition to being extremely good in slippery situations. It does help in handling in regular situations, and it totally eliminates, who knows, if this was just a front wheel drive version, it might have a little bit of that bump steer stuff. But I don't know for sure if it would, you know, I just think it would. There we go, and there we go. One thing I don't understand is when the suspension is so pronounced and yet the rest of the car is so quiet, it slides through the air very, very nicely. Not sure what kind of glass it had. It's definitely Volkswagen glass, obviously, but I don't know if it's that. More and more manufacturers are going to a really interesting glass construction that is primarily designed to quiet down the cabin, and it uses a laminate. It's like a plastic. All safety glass, which is especially what your windshield is a layer of glass and then plastic in the middle and then a layer of glass on top of that. You'd never know that by looking at it. It looks like just one piece of glass. But it's actually a complex structure. And that's one of the reasons that windshields are not super cheap. If you have glass insurance, the insurance company is more than happy to keep you. They think it's to their benefit to keep you with a windshield you can see out of. That's the thing. And they'll even, after your car gets old and you start to get a lot of specks and things on it, just from age, and you're driving at night and it's really kind of it blurs your vision a little bit, is what it does. You tell your insurance company that, a lot of times they will replace, if you have glass insurance, they will replace your windshield free of charge. And that's not a bad idea if you have an older car with a lot of miles on it and you've driven in places like when they put sand on the road during the winter time. And you just have a lot of particulate things to worry about. Not a bad way to go. Get your windshield replaced so you can see where you're going, especially at night. Boy, I tell you, you can tell a school bus went through here, because we could be here until next June. Okay, I got one more story to tell. Well, I'll tell you something. That was complex. I've been doing complex things, and I don't always do complex things where I must admit. But our Taos is able to take everything I've thrown at it from the complexity front, because what the heck is this telling me? What? Or start? No, don't do that. This thing's always trying to do stuff. It's trying to add its own complexity into the complexity equation. You know, a funny thing just happened. I was sitting here messing with a bunch of stuff, camera gear, and the engine was on, I think. No, maybe it wasn't, but all of a sudden I heard the distinct sound of an air pump going in the back of the car, aft, as they say. So I went, well, hold on a minute. Does this car have an air suspension? Because that's what they do, you know. Them air pumps are always regulating the ride height and all kinds of different things. And so the air pump comes on to facilitate that. And I said, no, wait, this car doesn't have an air system. What the? And I checked the Monroney on here. It's this right here, and on the other side of this, actually. And I didn't see anything that alluded to air suspension. So what I think it was, modern cars for years now have had a system. Wow, I was just thinking about my car has it, and it's 11 years old. But they've had it for quite a while. And this system is designed to pressurize the fuel system using an air pump or something. Yeah, it's got to be an air pump. It goes, you know, like as they do, air pumps, as is their wont. And what it does is it pressurizes the fuel system to check all the seals for emissions purposes, to make sure everything is sealed properly. And I guess it pumps air into the system and it measures it, and if the air is staying there and not going anywhere, then it purges the air out that it just pumped in, and the test is completed. And it only does it every once in a while. It usually, on my car, I know it does it after I fill the tank. If I run the tank down like, you know, 3/4 or below that, and then fill it up, sometimes that night, usually about 6 or 7 hours after I got gas, it'll do that. It'll pop on and do that. So where are we right now? We're at, well, oh, good grief. I put 162 miles on this, and I'm about a little over half a tank. Wow, isn't that something? So I think this thing has a pretty small gas tank now that I think about it, like 11 gallons, something like that. Anyway, can't be that small, but so I think that's what was happening. But it's really weird when you hear a little air pump go off like that and you don't know what in the world it's for. What is it doing? Is someone inflating? It's almost summertime. Are they inflating an air mattress? Are they inflating an inner tube to float in? I have no idea. But there you go. So as we drive along, we are currently, which mode are we in? I look down, I gaze down, and I do not see which mode we're in. We have a range of 245 miles left on this particular, here we go, I can adjust that. Assist systems, map, Radio Margaritaville, my phone's hooked up. So I can go up and down too, I forgot. So I can go here, and here, and here, and here, and then I can go up and down and put my trip odometer up there. And there it is. Pretty easy to master the menu system on the navigational computer, which is what I always call that. It doesn't strictly do navigation, it does all kinds of things, but it's a display usually located in between either real life mechanical analog instruments, one speedometer and one tachometer, or it's in between the flat screen replica of a analog system. Now I can change that. Should I change that? I can do that. View. Look, I made them go away. It's all it's telling me. We have on the lower right quadrant, we have our digital. Then I can go back here and it has a little bit of information on it. Like the long term on this vehicle, I guess the engine's got 58 hours on it. Interesting. Long term average MPG's been 27.2, which is good. Slightly better than class, but only slightly. Yes, I'm waiting for all of you people to go, especially you. Okay. What else can we do? What else? And then we have back to where we was. And this is where I like to have my analog. So now we are going to go to the left side and we are going to set our cruising control. Right there. Right there. Now we have two cruise controls, as I mentioned. Two cruise control buttons, and one of them activates the full spectrum, which is what I call. There's a name for it. I don't know what it is right off that. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen, which basically, more than anything else, is just a variation of what everybody else has. In that, you have adaptive cruise control, which regulates the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you, depending on what you set it to be. Right now, I think I have 2 car lengths. That's what I've set it to. And then you have the further advancement of lane steerage, meaning that it'll basically try to keep you in the center of the lane in question. And if you start to wander, there's 2 different types of things that can happen. One of which it will tell you you're drifting. It doesn't say drifting, but that's what it means. You're drifting, and to either direction, or it will actually input corrective steering so that it will actually steer the car back into the middle. This has always been something that I still don't think is baked on just about every car I've ever driven. I always test it. I'll turn it on right now. There we are. They do an okay job, but not a great job. See, right now it is steering the car, but you see it's going back and forth and back. Instead of one smooth arc like you would do as the human would do, it's doing what the digital brain would do, which is to flicker about, wander us a bit, do all this kind of thing. And that's what it's doing. It's actually steering the car, maintaining your lane centering. And it works okay. I mean, it's primarily designed for wide open highways, to be honest with you. Especially like a 4-lane divided interstate highway. It's perfect for that because it doesn't have to do much to keep you in your lane. And lanes are pretty straight for the most part. But when you start hitting some curves, that's where things get weird. Now, I'm going to throw it a curveball here because we have a curvy downhill thing coming up, and this will require the use of the entire system, all the artificial and not artificial intelligence, to maintain the speed without getting too fast going downhill, while at the same time keeping the vehicle centered in the lane. So that's, I believe, just over the crest of this second hill. We used to, man, when I was a kid, we used to play in South Texas. There were all these hills that came up. And matter of fact, Don Martin, Mad's craziest artist, used to do a thing with Fester, Bester, Tester, and his best friend. What was his best friend's name? But anyway, you go up to the top of a hill like this where you can't see the other side and you think you're going to plunge off Thelma and Louise style into nothing, but then, you're okay, and then you laugh. And we used to do that all the time when I was riding in the car as a kid. And even Mad Magazine did it. I want to say Carbuncle was Fester, Bester, Tester's best friend's name was Carbuncle, I think. Look it up. Don Martin. Mad Magazine. And he had a number of books, which I had as a kid, that were just his stuff. Now see, I had to overpower the self-steering, and I don't like to do that ever. It's not like it requires a whole lot of muscle to do, but I don't like the car fighting me ever for any reason whatsoever. Now this guy in front of us is slowing down, so the car's going to slow down. And here we go, turning. Turn to the right, fins to the right. And we're drifting, we're kind of, you know, probing around doing stuff. Fins to the left. And see, it went all the way off of here, see? That was automatic, folks. That was self-driving, and it failed the test on that particular stretch right there. So, yeah, and you say, you were awful tough on them. Yeah, I am. I'm very tough on them. But you should be. It should be the toughness. Is this one? No, I want to go down to the next one, don't I? Yeah, I'm going down. Ah, welcome underneath the Taos. We have an interesting situation here. We don't always see this. We almost see it, but we're absolutely seeing it on this particular day. We have our independent rear suspension, which looks to be quite substantial, by the way. You can never really tell how solid something is just by looking at it, but you can tell a fair amount. And as you can see, we have a lot of links on these. I just worked extensively on the device. There we go. There's our front link right there. And here, of course, is our cup, also known as our link that holds the coil spring. And instead of a coil over the shock is mounted outboard right there. And there's our coil spring. And this is all part of our subframe, because this is a unibody vehicle. And the subframe is where we have our various componentry to our rear suspension. We also have, can you see that right there? There's our drive shaft running in there. And let me get around here. I don't see where, here we go. If you look all the way up in there we go. That is our front link, one of our top front links. So there's some substantial linkage going on. So this does look like a stout little unit for a compact SUV. So you can take a bit of punishment with this thing and not worry about it, because it looks like it's very solidly constructed. Now, what's interesting right now is that we have this side here is in compression on this rock, and the other side is in extension, and it's extended with all it's got, because as you can tell, the wheel is off the ground. Here, you see, right down in there, that's the ground. So we have a limited amount of travel, which that works for you to your advantage in high-speed cornering on the road. Off-road, not so much. Matter of fact, when I was pulling this thing up on this rock right here to give you this bird's eye view underneath it, it's not a bird's eye view, I guess it's kind of a worm's eye view, it got stuck. And I assumed that the all-wheel drive system would kick in and the front wheels would just pull me forward, but they never did. So that's because two open differentials, when it's just in regular all-wheel drive normal mode, two open differentials, and with this wheel being off the ground, it was just spinning and nothing was happening here. And for whatever reason, and I don't know exactly why, the front wheels didn't pull us over. Now, if I'd had the vehicle set in one of the other settings, including like the off-road setting, I'm sure it would have just powered it right off, because then more of the torque would have been distributed to the front and it wouldn't have even hesitated. But I think in its road going mode, which is what the car is set right now, this wasn't a good situation for it, and therefore we ended up with nothing. No motion, a lot of spinning tires. So that was an interesting moment. And I also find it very interesting that the travel here is fairly limited, because like I say, this tire is completely off the, look there, I'm moving the whole vehicle. The tire is completely off the ground. But again, you know, it's a plus. Is this thing really meant for hardcore rock climbing off-roading? Nah, of course it isn't. But it has enough ground clearance, as you can see, and a fair amount of protection Those are plastic shields primarily for aerodynamic reasons installation, but the fact of the matter is they do offer some protection as well, and everything is pretty well tucked up. So you go down like Forest Service roads and stuff like that, you can absolutely do it with confidence because you do have a decent amount of ground clearance. And the compromise, again, with this lack of travel is that you have flatter cornering because it will only compress so much and keep you upright, sort of. That's the plan, anyway. As you can see right here, we have our anti-sway bar. And again, here's a lateral link right there. We have one on both sides, don't we? Yep. So there's a lot of links to this multi-link rear suspension, which should surprise nobody. And here is our differential made of aluminum and got some cooling fins on there. And there, right there, there's your culprit. That would be your actuator. I think that it probably has a clutch system in it. And it's normally, if you do put it in the off-road mode, I think it will lock that up so you'll have both front and rear wheels locked up and off you go. Same thing in snow, any kind of slippery conditions, it should do it. And speed you on your way despite the weather conditions, which is what you want in an SUV like this. Where's our fuel tank? Well, that looks like a fuel tank. Oh, wait a minute. I was working on this device. There we go. This looks like a fuel tank, and that looks like a fuel tank. I don't know if we have a split fuel tank situation or if that's something else. I have no idea. I mentioned before, I did hear this, was that this car? I apologize. I've had a hell of a week. You do have these systems on the cars now that test the evaporative fuel emissions by pressurizing the system, and it needs an air pump to do that. So there's an air pump located somewhere on most vehicles, and it was either this vehicle or the vehicle I just had prior that I could hear it while I was just sitting, and I said, wow, does this thing have an air suspension? I believe it's this one. And no, it does not have an air suspension. It has a conventional suspension right here. And what is this up here? Boy, look at this pillar of solidarity. It's a very, overall, the cradle, as I like to call it, but is actually known as the subframe, is a real pretty stout-looking unit. You really can't tell how much abuse something can take just by looking at it, but it'll give you an indication. Certain things, there's certain vehicles that honestly have rear suspension parts that look like they're a bit on the skimpy side, but turn out to be very stout. And the engineers love that because they can make things, you want as much unsprung weight as possible, meaning that the wheel, tire setup, and everything else is as light as possible so the suspension can react faster. And there's always that compromise between making the lightweight and making the tough construction. So there you go. So that's our underside of our Volkswagen Taos compact sport utility. I believe it's SEL. There's not a hell of a lot of trim options on these vehicles, but this one's very nicely equipped, especially for the money. Well, let's see if I can get through this Monroney with only one good eye at the moment. Our 2025 Taos SEL from Volkswagen has a base price of $34,695, and with options, our sticker came to $36,575. Your mileage is 25 city, 33 highway. We got about 27, which is pretty daggum good. About a little bit better than most of the class typically gets. So what do we think of this Taos? Well, it's a real nice compact. It's a good size for a lot of people because it doesn't have the gaping maw that is the Atlas, but it does have enough room in it for, I'd say, 3 passengers and all your gear for a ski holiday, perhaps in Taos. It rides beautifully for a vehicle like this. I mean, it does a fine job, and all in all, I really liked it quite a bit. I think it's worth a look if you're in that incredibly competitive compact SUV stage. So until we meet again, friends, which will hopefully be very soon, you be careful out there because there's a lot of crazy people out driving like me. Take care, and we will see you soon.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.